Hey thinkers, when you get an assignment and it requires that you find legitimate scholarly articles, do you know where to go and do you know what you're looking for or how to look for what you need to look for? In this video, I want to define what research is and what it isn't and help give you a process for how you can go about finding the type of legitimate scholarly articles that you need for those types of assignments. Well, I'm going to do something a little bit different today and do a screencast for you that shows you step by step what kind of process you need to follow in order to find the type of information that is best for you in the projects that you have or assignments that you have that require those scholarly articles that you need. But I want to take a moment here and briefly discuss what research is and what it isn't. First, what it isn't is just going online and gathering information. Many people will actually use the term research when they really just mean that they're gathering information. So if I say something like, I was researching test anxiety the other day and found fill in the blank, that's really not research. Research actually requires you to ask a question, design a study according to the questions that you've asked, implement that study, gather data, analyze that data, and then report the results and conclusions that you gain from the analysis. If you don't do all of those things, then you're not actually conducting research. So research is actually very much an in-depth process and takes a lot of time. And it's actually that type of information whenever you are digging through articles and information for your project or assignment for school. It's those types of things that you're actually looking for. If something didn't follow that particular procedure or method, we call it the scientific method. If it didn't follow that method, then it's not really classified as research. So a simple survey or a simple poll or an opinion article or anything like that is not going to fit within the guidelines of scholarly material. So whenever your teachers are asking you to go and find legitimate research from a scholarly standpoint, they are asking you to find articles that have been written based on a study that was designed, implemented, and then analyzed. So knowing where to go to find that type of information is really important, and that's what I want to do today. So why don't you come over my shoulder and I will show you exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so first thing is first, and that is one of the things that you should not do whenever you are trying to find information for a research paper is to just use Google or Bing or any other search engine. Let's say you're doing a paper on test anxiety, and I've already pre-populated this, but this is what you see if you just used test anxiety as a search term. And it's not that there's anything necessarily wrong with the information that these pages have, but you would never use this information as a reference or this type of page or site as a reference. You could learn some things about test anxiety, and the things that you learn might lead you in the direction of what you could search in other databases, but this is not the type of articles or pages or sites that you would reference if your instructor is saying to use scholarly articles. Now, Google does have Google Scholar. In order to get there, you just type in scholar.google. So let's actually do this again and go to test anxiety. And you see here that there are more than 2 million, almost 3 million results here. So this is way more information than you could really sift through. So part of what Google Scholar is good for is just kind of giving you a lot of different options, but in the end, the only options that are really viable to you as far as you having access to the articles are the ones that have these PDF links on the side. Any of the other articles, like let's go to this second one, you're going to have to actually buy this from the publisher. So this can actually get really costly. And one of the workarounds for this is what is called an interlibrary loan. So if you were to go to your librarian and say, hey, I found this article online and I don't think we have access to it in our online library, and you would need to make sure that you don't have access to it on your particular database that you have access to. So that would be the first thing. Write down the information and then go over to the databases through your online library at your school and see whether or not they actually have it. If they don't, then most schools have what are called interlibrary loans that your librarian can help you with. And essentially what it is they buy the article for you, and then once they receive it, they deliver it to you. The one thing that you have to be aware of, though, is if you wait till the last week before something is due, there's just not going to be enough time for them to be able to get that particular article. So you need to budget for the time necessary for them to actually secure that so that you can utilize it. One of the things that I would recommend is always doing a custom date range, and many professors prefer that you use current research. So let's just say that I'm going to stick with the information from this millennium. Well, let's narrow this down to a little bit more than 1 million less than what was originally. Now, here's a couple of things. If we scan through this, we see test anxiety, but we also see anxiety. So really, this search term right here is giving us everything that has to do with both tests and anxiety. If we want to keep this specific to anxiety, and you see here I've already actually got it, then you need to put that in quotation marks. That keeps test and anxiety together in search terms. And then if there are multiple terms, then you would separate those by commas. So let's just say I'm just focusing on test anxiety that college students have. This would actually be a good search term, and you can see here that that's narrowed this down to 16,800, which is pretty good for Google. Now again, these are the only ones that if I click on would actually take me right to the article. And so something that I would recommend doing is that every time you find an article that is appealing to you, immediately download it. Make sure that you have a folder that you've already set up and save it to that particular folder. And then as you keep finding more and more articles, and again, if they have this link, then go ahead and download it. If they don't, again, let's go back over to this one that we clicked on earlier. If they don't, actually we didn't click on this one earlier, I'm sorry. If they don't, this at least going to give you some information here. And if you want, you can go ahead and purchase it. But if you don't, then you at least have this information here. What database has this particular article, and then you can look at the title and the authors and the journal itself and the volume. So you could at least take all of this information right here. Actually, I would take this DOI as well. And then take this to your librarian, and if your school's online library does not have this particular article, then they can utilize that interlibrary loan for you. So I would never recommend purchasing it yourself, but take that information to your librarian. Okay, so what I want to do next is actually show you what I think is the better option for you, and that's to go to your school's online library. And the school that I teach at, let me get to this. This would be a collection of the databases that are available. And so you just go to the homepage of your online library and then find through a couple of searches what would be the most appropriate database to go to. So if we're talking about test anxiety, I would likely go to Psychology and Behavioral Sciences, and I would go to this collection right here, which would take me to EBSCOhost, which is probably the most popular research database available, and it has a lot of information. Actually, if we go over here to this Choose Databases, you can see all the different databases that my school has available within EBSCOhost. Depending on your school, that list of databases is going to change. Two other databases that I have found helpful are ProQuest and then Sage. But again, my field is psychology, so that might actually not be something that you have access to or that is appropriate to. So you really just have to figure out what is most appropriate for you and what you're doing. Something else, the type of search that you do is important, and if you don't know much about Boolean searches, there's probably a question mark here like this that pulls up a help page and can tell you exactly what all of these types of things mean. All right, so let's go through here, and I always do an advanced search, and let's do the same search term that we used earlier. And go college and student. And actually, these right here are important. We don't want or and we don't want not. We want and, because we're looking for test anxiety and college and student. And I'm going to go ahead and select subject terms for each of these because I don't want it to search everything. I just want it to specifically search the subject terms. So that looks good to me, and then I'm going to hit search. So we see here 1 of 18, and that's good. From here, one of the first things that I do personally is go to page options and hit detailed because I want to see the entire abstract, essentially what the summary of this article is. And then if I like what I see, then I would go ahead and hit on PDF full text, scan it a little bit more, and then likely download that again, the same way that I did with the article on Google. Again, we can come over here and refine the date, and a lot of times that will just automatically change. So now we see that it's gone to 1 to 10. I also like peer-reviewed articles. And most of the time, these articles are peer-reviewed. If you don't know what that means, it just means that other people besides these authors actually looked at the final research and gave their stamp of approval. So more than just a few eyes looked at the quality of the research. So it just means that it stands the test of scholarly critique. So you can trust most of these sources or most of these articles as being legitimate information that would be accepted by every instructor that you have. Again, do not use just Google. Do not use a newspaper or a magazine or anything like that. Use your online database. Use Google Scholar if you need to or want to, just to reference what else is out there. Utilize the interlibrary loan. Again, that is an awesome resource because if an article like this actually costs you $35 and your school allows for you to have 20 interlibrary loans in any given semester, that's more than $700 right there that you didn't have to pay for, and you get to keep this information forever once you download it. So that's good stuff. Okay, so utilize this process in the future, and I guarantee if you do, it's going to help, one, streamline your process, but two, make sure that you're always having appropriate scholarly work that you're using as references in your papers. Well, I hope that this was helpful and insightful so that next time you need to find great information for your research paper or whatever project that you're doing that requires you to find this kind of information, if you will follow these processes, I guarantee you will find what you need to find when you need to find it, and you'll likely find it easily. Well, if you're a student, we drop videos every week that helps you learn something different about how to be successful in school and boost your skills as a student. I would also encourage you to share this with one of your friends who is also a student, because every person who's in school is going to at some point need to be able to conduct some kind of search for proper literature that they need for a project, and this process will help them. So again, I hope that this was helpful, and as always, learn, develop, grow. That's why we're here. I'm Dr. Jason Wright, and I hope to see you next time.